Welcome to Florida Versus. I'm your host, Peter Murphy, and it's the last Tuesday of the month, which now means it is Florida Movie Review Day. That's right. Today me and Corey Slater, are going to review the 2019 epic film, The Beach Bum. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome returning guest, Florida legend, Corey Slater. Corey, how are you?
I'm good, Peter. How you doing, man? Hi, everyone.
I'm doing great. Corey, writer, director, Floridian, neighbor, etc. Corey, before we get into the film, I want to just say a couple things because it's a Tuesday episode. What I'm making are some tacos. Now, it's like for your flour tortilla. I've been on a big taco kick just because I bought a lot of flour tortillas about a month ago. And chicken and ground beef, because expiration dates exist. Avocados, tomato, like a tomato salsa that's mild, and I like to put a little sriracha on there. That's my favorite. And just really quick, we want to thank the supporters of this podcast, namely Mike, Gina, Kelvin, Collier, Justin, Dawn, Susie, Lindsay, and Peter. If you'd like to become a supporter yourself, check out the details in this podcast description. Also in the podcast description is plugs. Corey, is there anything you would like to plug for the listening audience?
No.
Nothing to plug. Just live where you're at and listen up tight. So, Corey, you came up with this idea some time ago, and you said, hey, we should look at Florida films and kind of judge them and take a peek at what they're all about and look at them through the gaze of a Floridian. Now, this is going to be our first film that you picked. Why'd you pick it, and why do you think it's important to rate these films?
So I think I'll start with the importance. I think that it's very important for us to go over authenticity.
Oh, yeah.
Of these films. I think that that's a crucial thing. A lot of people, make movies about other places and don't really understand them. Like, I have a bone to pick with Three Billboards and the way that they handle the South.
Okay.
To me, that movie is a film by people who have never been to the South, filmmakers, and were just kind of like going off of what they thought it was like down there. And it annoyed the shit out of me because it's not what it's like in Missouri at all. Like, it felt very odd and out of place.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think of movies that Florida, that get it right. Like, there's different segments of Florida. There's different sections, different ones we can talk about. If we want to go for more Miami, I don't think anything gets it better than Bad Boys 2.
Oh, yeah.
And from there, like, you can bounce around the state and kind of get all these things. So I thought for the first one, a good one we would talk about is what I think is Florida in a nutshell. I think this movie is the essence of the state in an hour and 50 minutes of time. And you can go see it and watch the movie, and you are instantly in Fort Lauderdale. It gets more humid in the room just from putting it on. Like, it's one of those movies, Peter, I dragged you to go see this opening day.
Yeah.
It was the first showing of the day. I was so excited to see this movie. I was working out at the 24-hour fitness next to ArcLight, and they actually had Moondog's van on display right outside the window. So every day I would be sitting there working out, looking at the Moondog's truck, just being like, I cannot wait to see this movie. I can't wait. And it did not disappoint.
No. So a film by Harmony Korine, known for Gummo, Kids, Spring Breakers. And this came out in 2019, when you could see movies in theaters. When we talk about The Beach Bum, authenticity in Florida, is it Florida authentic? And what I mean by this is, are the characters true to life? And do we know anybody like this that lives in Florida right now? What do you think?
I think this is probably one of the most authentic Florida movies. I don't know how you feel about it, Peter, but
totally,
there are times where this movie feels eerily like we're on Fort Myers Beach, and
Right.
you and I are kind of sitting in the back watching one of these beach bums, which they were there. The guys who sat around on the beach all day long and sit mai tais and just got hammered drunk. Their skin would start turning this like alcohol dryness mixed with the sun, and they get this thick leather hide. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They get this like tan hide. I'd call them lizard people because they're just dried out, walking around the beach, and they all look like they're borderline in blackface.
That's what they yeah, I mean pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, because it's his most recent film, Harmony Korine, there's not a lot of legend regarding it or history regarding it compared to his other films. But for a guy that was born in California, raised in the Bay Area, I don't know how, you know, you're just talking about authenticity. I don't know how he nails Florida so well, you know?
Well, let's not forget when he was 16 years old, he wrote a movie about street kids in New York City that was so good it got bought and made before he was even 18 years old.
That's Kids, right?
That's Kids, yeah.
Yeah.
He is. I consider Harmony one of the best right now. I think he's every one of his movies is super interesting. Julian Donkey Boy is a wild watch. If no one's seen it, watch that one. But he nailed it with Spring Breakers.
Yeah.
I think Spring Breakers was so, and that's going to probably be the next one we talk about because it's great.
Should be.
Spring Breakers nailed it in the retrospective, like people that live in spring break towns.
Yeah.
Peter and I happen to be from before COVID, the number 3 trashiest spring break city in the country, Fort Myers, Florida.
Woo!
Yeah, we're wearing our miracle hats right now in honor of being number 3, the originating birthplace of Girls Gone Wild. Trash happens in Fort Myers Beach. It's just the way that it is.
Let me just say this. You were talking about authenticity. We're talking about characters a little bit. And I knew the film when I watched it, it was going to be good. And it was going to be just one thing. Some films they just need to be one thing. It's about this guy. Now, the opening scene, he finds a Moondog, played by McConaughey, finds a cat, brings the cat into a Key West bar, and brings it on stage with him. And he just takes the microphone.
Do you remember why? That's his angel pussy, baby.
And people are just like, oh, this is happening now? Almost like if you're in South Florida or any sort of beach town in Florida, like seeing anybody do anything that you wouldn't expect, it's like being a caveman and seeing fire for the same time. Whoa, that guy was just, you know, they're thinking, whoa, that guy was just at the bar with us here. He's up on stage now and he's got a cat. Whoa, this is our new leader. You know, even if they didn't know him as Moondog, you know, that's the vibe there. And they totally capture that in the first scene.
And this is Key West that this is happening in, which is, you know, party capital of the world.
Absolutely.
And the fact that a guy's on stage performing songs for a crowd at a bar, sees the legendary Moondog, and immediately, you know, Moondog's up on stage, and the guy just gets out of his way. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, this is Moondog. Like, here's the prophet of Key West. Let him speak.
You know what? Exactly. You know what makes him, and I'm going to read this thing that I thought of, that I wrote down, that I was thinking about. But the thing that makes him the beach bum, not just a beach bum, but like the beach bum that all beach bums aspire to, is he does not at one point ever consider temperance or moderation. It's all out or nothing. And he doesn't let work get in the way of having a good time. And he has this great monologue at the end where he's like, fun's the gun, man. And he literally says that. He goes, fun's the gun. I'm just trying to have fun. And it's so great that you know what makes this character great is the fact that he is a writer and a poet, because he can get away with those things and, you know, write them off as like exploits or some might say research,
And that's, the character, there is a real Moondog. He's not the one that McConaughey and Corinne based this Moondog off of, but there's a Moondog who's also a poet and like a philosopher.
Mm-hmm.
For me, a lot of this character comes down to Ernest Hemingway, who
wow,
moved to Key West, bought a mansion, and then used that as an excuse to just get as fucked up as possible for the rest of his life in Key West. And like I have sat in, it's like an infamous spot in the bar right next to his house. This is Ernest Hemingway's seat. Wow. He sat here for every night for 25 years and just got completely obliterated drunk.
I love it.
And, like, I sat in that seat and got hammered, and then went to his house and was like trying to sit at his desk and shit, got drunk. But he was very much that spirit of Key West embodied as a person that was just like, I'm here to rock and roll. I'm here, fun is the gun, baby. Like, ready to go. That's my second favorite line of the movie, Peter. My favorite from Moondog is he looks at his wife, he says, I'm a bottom feeder, baby. I gotta go low if I want to get high.
Dude, yeah. I love both of those lines. They're great. All right, well, talking about it, let's get into the characters of the film. Moondog obviously follows him. And Moondog is, I wrote this down, a dude that made a bunch of money and isn't going to work again until he has to. In the meantime, he's going to look back on the work that he's done fondly and have as much consensual sex as possible. Also, as I describe him, I also describe myself and my motivations. What's that?
That's the Florida man, the infamous one you hear about in the news and stuff. That's his life's philosophy.
It's
embedded into our DNA at this point.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Like, he doesn't, there are parts in this film where he's looking back on things that he's done. And he's like, oh yeah, I was great back then, and maybe he's even plagiarizing himself.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is when he's watching himself from 20 years earlier going, damn, man, you were good, man. You're a good poet, man. Like, he's so into watching himself and thinks that, yeah, like, this kid's got something, man. He's got spunk.
That's the equivalent of watching an old comedy sketch that I did, or maybe reading or watching some video that I was in, or reading like an old Facebook headline. And exactly, yeah, and just living in it, man. And he I don't want to work until I have to again. That's it. And he's not the only person in the world that has that mentality. I think a lot of people do, but I think he's the superhero of that mentality,
Yes, this is an MCU Florida movie.
I actually heard that it's in the MCU. Wait, would it be in the MCU or the Snyderverse because of how dark?
Oh man, I don't know. I would have said MCU 100% until a week ago when Peter and I got together and watched the Snyder cut, and Peter heard me in the first 20 minutes. I wanted to hate that movie. I wanted to hate it a lot. But 30 minutes in, I was like, damn, I think I love this movie, and I loved it for 4 hours, and it was fucking awesome.
That was epic. I mean, what else can you say about the character of Moondog? What else can you say?
His whole just philosophy on life is the most Florida thing ever. Like you were saying, it's about having money, enough money to get by every day and just living life to the max, doing whatever the fuck you want, full throttle. I mean, throughout the movie, he's getting as drunk as humanly possible, and then driving a car like a crazy McLaren, $500,000 car at like 200 miles an hour, just going nuts. And it, the second half of the movie is this weird look at the repercussions of living that lifestyle while not abandoning that lifestyle. And I think that's the coolest thing this movie does.
And the thing that he has that McConaughey nails is this: he has this smile and this carefree attitude, but he has this edge and intensity behind his eyes.
Well, you can tell he's very smart. He knows he's a very smart person that's just wild. He's a wild card. He's a wild man.
You see the edge, and I love this, when he goes back to mess up his mansion.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's kind of like, say that again.
knowing he's going to go to jail for doing it.
That's the thing. He's down. He's trying to come up with a plan to get back up again. His wife just died. He's encouraged to write another book so that he can score her inheritance, let alone cash in on a book, a novel, a series of poems. And that's it. He's doubling down on his trouble. This shit sucks. Let's just lean into it. I'm down already. Why don't we go back and party at the mansion and just fuck it up?
See, and I'm convinced that is a knowing thing. Like, he knows he's going to go to jail, but he also knows that in order for himself to write that novel that he has to, he's got to do shit like this.
Yeah.
These are the things that get him to the end of the story. He has to live this lifestyle, or else it's just a book about a bunch of bullshit that no one cares about. It's got to be authentic Moondog, and that's how he keeps it authentic.
It's a gambler's mentality too, where he's saying, "Oh well, I've lost all this." It's like walking into a casino with $10,000 and you've lost $9,000. Let's just lose all $10,000.
Yeah, let's spend 500 of it on booze and then 500 of it on fucking whatever, and let's have a good time.
Or let's just gamble it away. Is what I'm, in my scenario.
Yeah, mine's getting more fucked up. I'm more of the Moondog right now. Like, that's what life's about, man.
I feel like of both of our mentalities, if that were the case and we walked into a casino to do that or to gamble or whatever, we would fall somewhere in the middle.
100%. We don't do well in public intoxicated.
And so before you were just saying he's got to live this lifestyle to encourage himself to write based on his reality, you're saying?
The only way he can write a book that is a Moondog book, a book of poems that is going to be what people expect, and at the end he wins the Pulitzer. So
right.
He has to, like he said to his wife, I have to go low if I want to get high. I got to go to the derelicts of society. I got to go under a bridge and find a bunch of homeless people who are just getting drunk as fuck and trying to skateboard, hurting themselves, and then bring them to my $50 million mansion and have a pool party. Because, like, that kind of chaos is what keeps the gears turning.
Risk going to jail, risk going to rehab like he goes to.
And he knows full well, all the characters do. I mean, the judge, when she sentences him, even like, I should throw you in jail, but I know what you're doing. Like, you're not going to, sneak past me on this one, kind of thing. So everyone knows full well that that's just who the Moondog is. And Minnie Moo, his wife, Isla Fisher, is great in it. She says so many times throughout the movie, that's just your father, or that's just the Moondog. Like,
oh yeah, she's great, dude.
Yeah, but she knows that that's, I'm not going to see him for months at a time because he's going to be living on a boat in Key West with a Spanish maid who's like 70 years old. A white cat. Like, he needs to do that in order to be what he is.
Thinking about him, I want to consider this. Is he a psychopath? Do you think, like, to him, are words just words? I think yes. Like, our promises just words? Yes. But how can that exist in a person that can also in the type of person who is someone who makes money with poetry, with words? For him, what's that?
I was going to say, I think he's, to say he's a psychopath would mean he's not affected by things throughout the movie, right? Like, things happening don't affect him. He's very affected by the death of his wife.
True.
He just shows it in a weird way. The other scene where he shows a lot of emotion and affect towards another person is when he finds out his wife is having sex with his best friend, who's Snoop Dogg, aka Lingerie.
Right.
Great character name. But if you remember that scene, he has a moment where you can see on his face it hits him, and he's like, oh man, that kind of sucks. Like, that's
Right.
my wife and my best friend. And then he sees her smile and how much she's loving it. And his entire attitude changes, and he's okay with that relationship now. And even later in the movie, they're joking about how great she was in bed, the two of them together.
Right. And
Like,
that's the moment that grounds him and brings him back down to earth.
yeah, so the psychopath, I think, takes the connotation out that he's not really feeling these things, but he's feeling them greatly. He just chooses to get over them. Like, he knows that they're not, life is about more than, just sex. Like, whatever, it's about more than that.
I think, yeah. Well, I mean, I think he has some psychopathic tendencies. I'm reading this book by Kevin Dutton called The Wisdom of Psychopaths. And in it, one of the things that's evaluated is how, and this is on like a mild spectrum of psychopathic tendencies and habits. It's to not understand, or to not really give full weight to words and just treat them as words, and like he's not thinking about the repercussions. He's just going to do things because it interests him. And promises are promises. Oh yeah, I'll be at my daughter's wedding, but he's like, he shows up late, you know what I mean? Or I'm going to blow up a boat just because it's going to be a sweet thing to do, not, oh, someone's got to clean this up later. He's not thinking about that.
But he gets to all of his promises just on his own time.
Yeah.
He promises his daughter, I will get clean, I will write this book. You just gotta, as he puts it, you just gotta give me $100 to get me, but he's what he's saying is like, you just gotta give me time. Give me that little bit of time. Let me go to this rehab facility. Let me do what I have to do, and I will be fine. And he is by the end of it. And and that's, I just think that's it. That's a beautiful sentiment that, and a Floridian sentiment. We'll get it done, but on our own time, baby. Like, we're in paradise. You got to give us, you say 4:00, I say 6:30. Like, it's just what it is.
How about, so getting into the characters, we brought up Isla Fisher.
Minnie Moon.
Oh, dude, total babe in this film, total Florida babe. What did you think of her character, and is that a far stretch from anybody that in Florida, or anybody you could see actually existing in Florida?
Oh, I mean that. Yeah, I can totally see that happen, and a lot in closer to us in Naples, places like that. Those kind of people down there.
Right.
But I thought she she's the perfect yin to Moondog's yang in this movie. They're two sides of a coin, and
absolutely,
you can see how she understands his philosophy. It might seem like she's making excuses for him throughout the film, but she's just explaining who he is because she understands.
This place, no
one else seems to, except his daughter.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. His daughter sort of is coming around to him in a lot of ways. In other ways, she already gets him. But this movie really takes place in its own world, and that world is Florida. And because they're both cheating on each other, and they love each other, obviously, but they're both cheating on each other, and neither of them are bad people.
I don't think they're bad people at all. I don't think they care that they're cheating on each other. I think it's an okay thing.
Yeah, exactly. But there are other movies that are just, the crux of the movie is he's cheating. Oh my God, the dilemma, like that sort of thing.
But she's banging Snoop Dogg, which is awesome. So like, good for her. Like, and that's kind of the attitude of the movie is like that. Those are pettier things to Moondog. They're things that he doesn't think like that.
Yeah.
It's a grander scale.
So Moondog's mentality, along with a Floridian mentality, is if it comes along with a smile, then let's keep doing that.
Yeah. I'm here to have a good time, not a long time, baby. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right. What's one other character that you want to talk about? There's so many great ones. There's Zac. Who is your favorite?
Zac Efron.
Dude, I'm so glad you said that. Absolutely bending the words of the Bible to his own.
Doing air kung fu. Like he is, and then we're not even getting into like physical appearance. He's got a vest on. It's like a punk heavy metal battle vest, but every patch is a Christian metal band from the 80s, which is so perfect. He's got a fucking faux hawk with like stripes shaved into his sideburns. He's wearing Jinkos that are massive.
Right.
A mesh tank top underneath the vest, and he's vaping fat clouds. All of this is happening on Heelys. Like, the dude is the next level of cool.
What a champion. Yeah, I mean, those people either, I don't know, I don't know anyone that's developed a lifestyle off of his character, but there are definitely waves of his sentimentality that cross through every Floridian's mind. It's like, well, dude, Jesus died for our sins, so this one's paid for. Yeah, exactly. It's like going to dinner with someone. It's like, hey, I'll buy dinner tonight. Oh, really? Okay, sure. And then you sit down with that person who's getting a free meal. And it's like, yeah, I'll have 2 lobsters. Yeah. He's going to double down. Jesus paid for all my sins, so I'm going to sin to get my money's worth. I think that is a more Floridian thing. Like, oh, let's make sure we get our money's worth.
Let's amp it up. We've been at the mega church all day. Now it's the sun's going down. It's time to rage because we already gave Jesus all our sins today. Like, let's get crazy. Which is I grew up in church schools and going all that stuff. And that's very much the mentality of a lot of those kids. I mean, no one was having sex and smoking weed first, other than like the super Christian kids.
Yeah, because they believe that, like, oh, Jesus died for our sins. So that happened at, you saying that happened like
at the school? We won't name it, but at that school, yeah.
So kids were like, oh, Jesus died for my sins, so time to sin.
I mean, yeah, it was heavily implied, which is
really
great. Yeah, oh yeah.
Jeez,
and we know. I mean, yeah, we know the people. It just is what it was. But that character and every bit of him and his interaction with Moondog is my favorite part in the movie, because it's where Moondog is at his lowest point. He's going to jail, essentially.
Yeah.
And jail for him is like a cozy resort, but he can't get fucked up with his friends, so that is pretty much prison, right?
Right.
So he meets a guy, and the first thing this guy, who are, cut from the same cloth, the first thing they say is, let's get the hell out of here.
That's where the real world is. Yeah, no kidding, dude. What? You're not saying something profound. Yeah, you're in rehab. You're confined to this place. And Zac Efron's like, dude, the real world's out there. Real stuff is happening. This is the fake world. Yeah, we know. Everybody knows.
We have to get out there, or else we're just wasting our lives. And Moondog has been waiting for an hour and 20 minutes for someone to say this to him. And he says, yes, we need to go out into the real world. They get out into the real world of Key West, and the first thing they say is, well, we need money. Zac Efron says, I can get us money real quick. And then he beats the shit out of a tourist and robs him.
He robs a guy that's on like a
motorized wheelchair.
Yeah, exactly. Motorized wheelchair.
Which is just, it's perfectly, and he's just like, who gives a shit? And Moondog's even like, what are we doing? Like, but it's all about that ride. And it winds up with the two of them mere hours after this sitting on a boat, and Moondog's writing, and he's got it. That night, that letting loose of that with this person, they crash a wedding. They push the groom into the Atlantic Ocean. Then they steal the boat they were supposed to get away on, while the Cure is just pumping. And it's awesome. And they steal a boat and they get away. And then throughout this crazy adventure, he knows now what he has to write. And the next morning he writes the whole book.
I think, yeah, but you mentioned the Cure, and we'll talk about music next. But I think this is an example of not just writing what you know or doing what you know, but everything that you do influences your choices and influences your work, whether you're, a real estate agent or, you're a writer or a performer in some way. Everything that you do influences the stuff that you produce. And I don't think he needed to do those things, but necessarily break out of rehab or, hit the bottom. But for him, he had to, and he's like the superhero,
I mean, he's the one who did it.
Exactly. Now in the music, we get a lot of The Cure. We get some Van Morrison. Jimmy Buffett does an original song for us, and Jimmy Buffett's in the movie.
Yeah, and he does a song with Snoop Dogg.
Oh my God, he does?
Yeah, you don't remember when they're on the boat and Moondog's just gotten out? It's right after the Zac Efron thing. He goes and meets up with them on the boat, and they're singing a song about Moondog, and Jimmy Buffett's playing guitar and singing, and Snoop's rapping over it.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And McConaughey is in his Speedo, and he's dancing around, shaking his wiener in between them playing bongo drums.
Dude, what did you think? I mean, what did you think about this? The music. I felt like I was in, a beach outdoor bar. I felt like I was in a bar that doesn't have a real door,
Like a good bar down there.
Yeah, exactly.
You remember the bars on the beach? They didn't have doors that went from like the bar to the outside where the sand was.
Yeah.
It literally just like giant plastic tarps that would zipper up the sides. And when they were open for business, they would just unzipper the tarps and it would be all open to the beach.
That's so funny. I do remember that. And the only time there's actually any sort of hardcore protection is hurricane season,
Yeah, which is then when everybody goes nuts. But hurricane season's every 9 months, so everyone should expect this to happen.
I don't know why I was there, but I remember one morning at the Lani Kai, that huge bar on the opposite side of the Lani Kai in Fort Myers Beach. I was there and they were opening it up, or like part of it wasn't even opened up, and there were about 8 people just kind of the bartender was unzipping the bar basically.
Yep. Oh,
and there were already 8 people sitting down on bar stools there. I couldn't tell you. I don't know why I was there. Maybe I had spent the night in downtown Fort Myers Beach.
You were moondogging.
But I was there for some reason, and it was just that was so bizarre and wild to me. Yeah, but the music, it felt like, Key West Bar, The Cure, they rock, Buffett, all the music was on point. What did you think of the music? Do you like it?
I mean, it was. I'm a huge Cure fan, and they played one of my favorite songs during the Zac Efron escape in between days. So,
oh yeah,
that was enough for me right there to say, oh, this is classic for music. Like, that was awesome.
Absolutely.
And they used The Cure pretty much every time something good happens, like post-wedding, when him and Minnie, before the car accident, The Cure is used as this, like, tool to show that good things are now happening.
Oh.
Throughout the movie. Like, there's a very specific reason why The Cure is played so much at all these specific times. Which I loved. I thought that was a great little touch that Harmony added. Yeah.
Did you think that the movie was authentically Florida? I think we've already answered that it is. But in what ways would you say that it is authentically Florida? And also, if there's anybody that would challenge this movie and say, like, oh, come on, that's ridiculous.
People hate this movie.
Really?
All right, so I will say now, I am an unapologetic lover of this film.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends that I talk to do not understand this movie. They don't get it. And then I'm in grad school for film, so there's a lot of people that throw that bullshit out there, like, well, there's no narrative, there's no main character's drive, and it's like, fuck all of that, right? This is a movie about tone and having fun and understanding a way of life that is not your own. We just so happen, Peter, to live adjacent to this way of life growing up because, Fort Myers Beach was where a lot of these characters live, where most of these characters live. And that's where our families would take us for like a good Saturday at the beach,
Yeah.
So we're kids and we're running around. There's also like a ton of German tourists in Speedos. And then 30 yards away, there's like a wet t-shirt contest going on in front of the Lani Kai. And that's normal for Fort Myers Beach. Like, there's nothing strange about having some rum runners and sitting there and watching the fucking game. That's what this movie is, and that's what we can still, to this day, because Florida didn't close at all, baby, we can still go watch these characters if we wanted to. Like, we know exactly where they are.
Yeah.
And that's a special thing to me. So people just be like, oh, it doesn't make sense or it's stupid. It's like, fuck you. I've seen this shit. Like,
yeah. So in that sense, yeah, it is authentic, and it's not really, it's not stretching reality so much. And it has a happy ending.
Oh, it's a beautiful ending.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the ending right now if you want to.
Yeah, I think when he was getting on that boat with the $50 million
in
cash, and he was with that cat, I thought, okay, this is the perfect analogy for the brightest stars burn out the fastest. He's, maybe, through his own mistake, he's, this boat's gonna set on fire and he's gonna die and whatever.
I don't think it was a mistake.
But he hops off of the boat with the cat, and he has, he sets forth the greatest fireworks display in the history of South Florida.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the ending? I loved it.
I mean, I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. It proved the whole point of the film, which is like, so Moondar did all of this to get this $50 million. But it doesn't fucking matter. It's the story that matters. The experience. Money's not going to change anything. It's not going to fucking... What are you going to spend the money on? Getting more booze? Some more, good cocaine because it's Florida? Like, that's pretty much all you can spend money on. Or you can put it all in a boat and blow it up in the biggest firework display in Key West history. Because that's a memory. That's something he'll never forget. And it's raining money on fire at the end of the movie. And he's just sailing away into the night with the cat that he got from the beginning, which is now like an adolescent cat. Like, it's grown. He's grown. And he takes off into his small dinghy boat that probably costs like $150. Because who cares?
Exactly, man.
Not about
it. Beer and drinks are cheap. And so are fun times if you want them to be.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed this too, but one of my favorite little things that I love. So when he wins the Pulitzer, he reads one of his poems. That poem is the first poem in the beginning of the movie that he takes the stage with.
Right.
The same poem, and it's about his wife, and it's now got a totally different context behind it, which is just great. That's good movie making. Harmony Korine. He's not everybody's cup of tea. This is definitely not everybody's cup of tea. But I'd say this is, one of his better movies, I think. It's one of the ones I enjoy the most rewatching. Because like Gummo, I don't really ever feel like rewatching again. Despite enjoying it, it's just one that I've seen it. I'm good.
Even if this goes beyond the movie into like the lesson, but even if you think of poetry as a hoity-toity type of a art form, even if you think about this film not applying to you, there needs to be films like this that exist that don't apply to everybody and are not generally loved or generally hated or whatever. Because for art to be real art, it has to contain two things. It just has to contain intensity over mastery. No, if you're searching to make a perfect movie, that's something that will never happen. Nobody will ever make a perfect movie. It'll be perfect in some ways, but
you obviously haven't seen Terminator 2 in a while.
Right, but just the intensity of this film and the way that it just hits the screen, and this is the world that you're in, that's amazing. And also for me, I feel like art and the art we're talking about here is number one, the film, then the poetry of the main character, and just generally artwork. I don't think it has to be kept from people or has to be blocked off in this elitist way. I think there should be more art, and the more art there is, the better. Just because if we put a cap on art and who can do it and what it should be and what a movie should be, then you're keeping that away from people that could create really great things. And whether this movie speaks to you or not, or is, you know, some great example of how you live your life or not, it's good enough to where if you took this movie and it was a painting, it could hang in some of the greatest art galleries in the world.
Oh, I mean, just put McConaughey, Moondog, in a case and lock him in the Smithsonian, and I'm visiting once a month to get life advice.
Exactly.
Like, that kind of guy. But I think the review that matters of this, the only one that should matter of this, is what my dad, the Bud man himself, thought of it. Now,
what'd your dad think?
My dad's the beach bum, guys. He's this character. I've said it on here before. He's just like, it's like my dad watched Point Break and was like, that's how I'm gonna be. And he, I was 3 at the time that movie came out. So like, it just he's Bill and Ted in one person. So Moondog was one. He saw the trailer for it and was like, Corey, they finally made a movie that is only for me. Like, this is amazing. It finally happened. And it's quoted to me more in text messages now than I think anything else. It's a huge hit. Budman loves the Moondog.
That's awesome. And that's who the movie was for. Your dad. Surfer, neon yellow, or not neon yellow, but like bright yellow Mustang convertible driving, like dude.
Mustard. Like, it was, yeah.
This was for him. It goes up there in the pantheon of beach movies. This, Endless Summer. What are some other great beach movies?
Big Wednesday is like the Bible, man. That one was
Big Wednesday.
Big Wednesday was one, Peter. I don't know if you remember this. We were probably 8 or 9 years old, and my dad was like, "You guys got to watch this movie. It's one of those that's gonna change everything, man." And he put on Big Wednesday, and the only thing I remember about it from watching it then was that Gary Busey was in it. And then I remember one character at one point walking into the room, and Gary Busey was on acid. I didn't know what that was until much later. But he's on acid and he's trying to cook himself in the oven. And the Mexican cop walks into the party and takes a big inhale and just goes, marijuana. Like, that's, to this day, my dad quotes that all the time. I'd come home stoned in high school and I'd walk into the house and that's the first thing out of his mouth, just like that. And, he was totally cool with it. He'd give me, extra money for gas, quote unquote. So it's like the chillest dude in the world. And he thinks Moondog is, up there on levels of chill with him. So, like, that's chill,
In conclusion, the movie's chill. It's authentic. The characters are honestly not a stretch from real life people. It's just that this is the superhero of this culture.
It's right? The Justice League. Like, we've got Zac Efron is Robin. Moondog is Batman.
Right.
Like, this is the full cyborg lingerie. And then to top it all off, when you're like, who's the Flash? It's Jimmy Buffett as Jimmy Buffett.
He comes in smoking the biggest joint you've ever seen in your life.
And we didn't even talk about the pilot who can only fly a plane to Jamaica when he's so high that he can't understand English. Because
98%, he's 98% blind.
Yeah, and he just says this when he asks me, he says, I feel the air, man.
I love it.
That's it, dude. He's just feeling the air, man. That's what that movie's about. That's how I try and live my life.
Feel the air. Well, Floridians, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next time.